Welcome to the Impact Maker's Journey from Passion to Profits, the podcast showcasing heart centered coaches, experts, and energy healers who are on a mission to change lives and create meaningful success doing what they love. I'm your host, Wendy Vaughn, business success coach and founder of Impact Maker Coaching. And I've got to be honest, the path from passion to profits is rarely easy, but it's always filled with growth, clarity, and surprising rewards. Now, each week I sit down with inspiring impact makers who have turned their knowledge and wisdom into thriving businesses that are making a meaningful difference for others. I will explore their personal and professional journeys, how they found their calling, and how they continue to stay aligned with their passion along the way. So if you're here to expand your vision about what's possible for yourself, you're in the right place. So join me as we discover the positive ripple effects created by today's guest. All right, I have as my guest today, Mark Entrekin. Now, Mark is a Chief Transformational Officer specializing in working with professionals, team leaders, executives, and individuals who feel frustrated by toxic dynamics. Now, he supports them to resolve conflicts and improve communication in their personal and professional relationships. So welcome, Mark. I am so excited to have you as my guest today.
Wendy, so much joy coming from me just to be able to see you and talk with you today. I love what you do.
Oh,
Thank you for reaching out,
absolutely.
helping
Absolutely.
people.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to discovering more about your journey as an entrepreneur and more about the important work you're doing.
Oh,
Now,
thank you,
one
Wendy.
of the things that I think, given the work you're in and your expertise, you'll probably agree with me that the entrepreneur's journey is an individual journey. It's not the same for everybody. Generally speaking, it includes both business development and personal development, with the vision or mission of truly making a meaningful difference for others. And ultimately, I believe that the ripple effects of the meaningful work that, for instance, you do results in making the world a better place. So that's my vision. But I know that the journey from passion to profits is not necessarily an easy one. So I'd love to hear a bit about your journey. So, curiously, how long have you been a chief transformational coach? And what prompted you to start on this career path?
Oh, Wendy, that's a long story. I don't know if we have enough time for that today, but let me see what I can do.
All right.
I have been working in information technology for quite a few years, and I've always been teaching. It just, IT has just made sense to me down to the what's called the data levels, it's ASCII and EBCDIC and all those other great acronyms, and it always has just made sense. So I've been teaching pretty much since out of college. My first job programming in IT and doing the old COBOL and PO1 and assembler and all those old languages. And I know it doesn't make sense to a lot of people because it goes
Right.
way
Just like
back.
exactly.
But then what happened was first it was an automobile accident. It just 9 pints of blood, was in intensive care in the hospital for over 17 days,
Oof.
recovery and rehab, went through a divorce and the prejudice that was involved in the divorce of the deadbeat dad of those days. And I was just trying to see my children. I couldn't see my children because I was a dad, like dad was a four-letter word.
Mm.
And it just knocked me down. I had to pay alimony. I had to pay child support. And I'm saying, I put this person through school, this woman through school. I read to her. I mean, come on, why am I having to pay all this? But that doesn't matter in our
Right.
court system
Right.
today. So
Yeah.
anyway, I started doing that and I started teaching more and speaking more, and I joined Toastmasters. And I wish everyone would join Toastmasters. There's
Mm.
one relatively close to you, and there's also some that are virtual. So as I did that, I learned to speak much better, slow down in my speaking, and then my vision came out more and more, and I was able to talk to more people.
Mm.
So back about 2012, I just said, I've done enough. I started doing my IT work part-time and speaking more full-time.
Hmm.
And as I did that, it helped me grow what I
So
wanted to
speaking is one
do.
of those things. I don't know. When I think about IT and speaking, it's like oil and water because usually you guys are, in the computers, in the zone, and the extrovert element is not really like a known pairing. So,
Wendy, you said so much right there because I am still into acronyms
okay.
with what I do and how I speak. And one of the things I talk about just briefly is there is no value to anger, Anger, because anger is nothing more than actions not gaining effective results. Anger, actions not gaining effective results. And it's one
Right.
of those situations where we work from that we can end that process by becoming calm. And calm is nothing more than controlling anger leads motivation. CALM, controlling anger leads motivation. So that's one
Okay.
of the things that I do in helping companies. But like you're saying, go from the IT world to more of the speaking world and being
Hmm.
able to talk with people one on one, I didn't quite lose that acronym scenario that it was picked up back in the IT days.
Right. IT and military, they love those acronyms.
They do.
Yeah.
We do. And I think it's needed at times. I think it helps us remember.
Hmm.
And I know it can also be abused.
We all need those go-to, like, okay, what's my go-to toolbox? And the acronyms are effective in that regard. So you started speaking more, and you were turning down the time commitment to your IT work. Speaking was part of this journey that you are, taking your entrepreneurial pursuits then into the, like, just there's a little gap here. So how are you, because entrepreneur to me means profits, right? Passion to profits. So what was the component there?
Well, the components all come in. Of course, we have to earn a living. There's no
Yep.
doubt about it when you talk about profits. And as an entrepreneur, we have to learn we have to learn to sell, to promote what we do to the people who can benefit. Just
Mhm.
for us, I also teach part-time adjunct instructor to universities, so for Torai University, University of Denver, and we pay for education because we take that education and put it into our tomorrow to make a better life for all of us. And as you
Mhm.
say, make the world a better place.
Yep.
So my entrepreneur process went from not doing that 8 to 5, where I'm working for someone else, where we have to do things from the other person's perspective when we know there's a better way. Why are we doing this? We can do this and this. Well, we've always done it that way. Well,
Hmm.
that's one of the paths that I take people out of in my coaching, my consulting, my speaking, my workshops. It's all about achieving unity through by harnessing the power of encouraging, inspiring, and including others personally and professionally. So we
Hmm.
learned that communication, that collaboration can help us learn to move away from what might have worked yesterday but doesn't work today, or maybe just doesn't work as well today.
Right, right, right. So those toxic dynamics is what you're referencing. So I guess before we get into that, which I'm really looking for, I'm kind of on the edge of my seat to dive into that a little bit more, but I'm still on the business building mode here. I'm still curious about this, Mark. So did you have a specific strategy to building your business? I mean, because it's not easy to just transition from doing that work for an employer to then having your own business. It's freedom, it's liberation, but then there's the whole, like you said, selling and marketing, some other skills that come into play, service delivery, packaging, all those kinds of things. So did you have a specific strategy that you had learned or discovered, or was it more like, well, let's just figure this out?
A little bit of both there, Wendy, because luckily, being an extrovert, I have been able to meet and cherish many, many wonderful friends. When
Hmm.
I started this, and this is part of my during when I was in Toastmasters, I met the late Joe Saba, and he taught me how to talk to Kiwanis clubs,
Yeah.
Rotary clubs, Optimist clubs, get free time there. And even though it's free for me to go speak with them, I would meet people there that liked what I had to say, and they could see a
Ah,
benefit to that. And
right.
they were ready to pay for that
Hmm.
learning because that's what I bring to them. That ability to get over how it was done yesterday and how we can do more tomorrow through that
Perfect.
communication and collaboration that
Exactly.
opens the doors to success.
Yeah, no, that's speaking is really a very effective way to bring awareness to people around your expertise, the benefits of, your knowledge and when it applies to their world. So yeah, I love that. So well, maybe if you could just help me understand what specifically is going on in the reality of these people, these leaders and individuals when they realize it's like, oh my gosh, we need some we need to do something different here. We need to talk with Mark about how to get out of this situation so that we can actually succeed or hit our goals, or so tell me a little bit more about what's going on in the reality of the people that choose to work with you, that prompt them to say we need your help.
That is a wonderful question, Wendy, because that all comes from where I have built what's called reality focused. And too many times we're not. We're based on symptoms
Mm,
of the problem and not the
mm,
solution to the problem. And it goes to the back to the point that I share with people everywhere. And this we'll talk about more. It is about encouraging, inspiring, and including others,
okay.
personally and professionally. And I hope I get a chance to say that about 114 more times today before we close, because it is so important. And that ability to smile and ask questions in these business environments as well as personal environments. When you see someone that may not be having that great of a day, that's the perfect time to tell them, hey, that color looks good on you. I like that shirt, like that blouse, I like those pants, I like the way you have a great smile.
Mm-hmm.
It's a situation where what would we want from someone?
Right. It sounds so small, but yet let's face it, something like that is really out of the blue and it's not the normal. So when you take that proactive role of bringing a little levity or light or, acknowledgement to somebody, it's like a big deal.
It is. It really is a big deal.
Yeah.
And then the funny side of that, though, is Wendy, whenever I'm around my family, they like it and they appreciate it, but then they also kind of harass me a little bit because, oh, you always say that. It's
Ah.
always a situation of uh, they, and well, it's just like I sent a note out today on LinkedIn about a person that was just a little bit negative, and I told him we have too much negativity in this world. Let's reach back out to the positivity of everything we do. Is it hard? No, it's not. And it's not fake either.
Right.
Sometimes we may struggle with it because of where we are personally, but it is about helping others the way we would want to be helped. How
Mm-hmm.
we might appreciate that if somebody did that to us.
Well, and sometimes that can be so difficult though, Mark, when you're stuck in that toxic dynamic, something that has you just pulling your hair out or just like feeling trapped or, in these situations. So can you share maybe a story about somebody who was in that kind of a situation and you were able to support them to make that meaningful shift?
Absolutely. Now, this one's going to be some of a work situation, but it was a small team, about 7 people, and then there was two sub leads for the team,
Okay.
and they were struggling. They seemed happy in the meetings. Everybody was working hard. But when they were away from the meeting, when they were in their offices, there was much more struggle in understanding what was being said. They would go to the meetings and they would have a meeting every day and they would say what they're doing, what I did yesterday, what I'm going to do today, and what are my problems. Well, they weren't talking about some of the problems because they were more emotional problems of understanding just the terminology.
Mm.
So I came in and I said, what about lunch and learns? I see a lot of things here that we're doing and we're talking about, but I don't see a flow. It's a little bit of a rocky stream with that communication that I'm not sure we all understand, even the words or terms that we use.
Mm.
So I put together a lunch and learn, excuse me, and then help them take over the lunch and learn. Just gave them an
Mm.
idea how to explain to each other words and terms, acronyms that they can understand and not toss them around thinking everyone else knows what I know.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
People don't
that's
read
huge.
minds, but just opening up that communication link that said, it's okay not to know as long as you ask.
Hmm.
If you don't know and you don't ask, you're just creating.
Well, the thing with the toxic, my understanding of toxic environment, toxic dynamics is there's pressure, there's criticism, there's manipulation, there's people that are controlling, there's others that, so it's toxic, right? So for somebody to say, "Hey, I don't understand that," that's taking a risk of saying
It
of
is
getting
taking a risk.
like, what do you mean you don't who knows
Hmm?
if it's a toxic dynamic?
And
The
sometimes the
whole
best start,
thing needs to be unpacked. That this is it's dynamic, right? There's a lot of
and that,
ego generally,
mhm.
uh, a lot of fear.
And you said a lot right there with that word fear, because fear is usually false evidence about reality. FEAR, more acronyms.
Yeah.
Fear, false evidence about reality. Because when someone says, "Oh, you don't know how to do that," and say, "No, I'm not clear. Can you show me?" Turn it back to that person
Hmm.
because 80 plus percent of the time, they're not going to know either, but because of their fear, false evidence about reality, or where they stand, they are, don't mean to be negative, but sometimes they're in a little bit of a childish, insecure, immature, or spiteful mode.
Yeah,
And when you
there's a
turn
lot of
that back around
insecurity.
and say, I don't, can you help me with it?
Hmm.
Because then a lot of times they're going to maybe start talking about it, and then they're going to realize that they also maybe don't know it as well as they could.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
opening up that communication link, that chain that we have stuck that stops the communication. We need to break that apart,
Right. Right. Well,
build that collaboration.
that brings that unity, which is so important, that cohesiveness.
So true. And I love that you use that word unity because that's what it's all about. Achieving unity. And it goes with my achieving unity success formula. Seven
Hmm.
simple steps. It's a
Okay.
way for us all to communicate better, for us all to be able to communicate, collaborate, and share in a way that we all understand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, can you share maybe with us maybe an applicable step that we can utilize right away from that formula?
Well, I'll just share two of them with you, and
Okay.
that is the anger and the calm. Anytime that we become angry or have any kind of anger, we just think about what is anger? Actions not gaining effective results. Have you ever wrote a story about somebody that had anger that you were proud of them? Did your spouse, did your child, did your parents, did your brothers, your siblings ever get angry and you thought, wow, that's the way I want to be?
Of
No,
course not.
it doesn't happen.
No.
Anger is not good. Anger has no value.
Hmm.
So we can take that anger and turn it into that calm. We grow a lot further, a lot faster
Yeah.
because that leads motivation, leads mastery. Calm, canceling anger leads motivation. You can become a master at getting over that. Then we have hate, HATE, having accelerated troubled expectations. That's what hate's all about. Why do you hate something? You have troubled expectations. And through that hate, you're accelerating those
Mm,
troubled expectations. Of
interesting.
course, we hate that it rains in our parade, no doubt about it. But if it could rain, bring an umbrella.
Right. Yeah. Oh, there's always
Do
a different perspective to take. I love how you are able to break things down into just, a clear, logical kind of, well, of course, that makes perfect sense. That
and
analytical brain of yours, unpacking the dynamics of what can really be bringing a team down or a relationship down. So yeah,
very well said.
you're very passionate
Thank
about
you.
this work. And the thing that I've seen over and over throughout the 7+ years now that I've been coaching coaches and energy workers in building their business is that the passion that you demonstrate for the wisdom that you share, that passion can kind of dwindle away in the act of building a business, because building a business is not easy. It takes really that combination of, not only the knowledge and wisdom that you have, but a passion for making a difference, plus tenacity, right? And I'm sure that's one of your principles too, and the right strategy, right? Which is a lot of the acronyms are strategies, right? To build a thriving and growing business, because just all too often, those heart centered experts end up giving up and feeling burnt out. So, like I said, I'm really hearing this. I can just see you like rising up out of your chair as you're talking about these powerful strategies. So, what's the secret for you to continue and keep that passion refueled in this mode of business building, which is complex? It's not easy, continuing to market and find clients and, customer delivery, all that kind of stuff. So what's your secret to refueling your passion?
I wished it was a secret because you said so much earlier, because it is those focused dynamics. And that is my company, Reality Focused Dynamics Corp. It's about being able to focus on those dynamics of where's the value? Where's the value in what we do? If it doesn't have value, why? Tell me, why do we continue doing it?
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest struggle that we have.
So
And
it sounds
that's
like really it's the pursuit of unpacking. I'm deciphering the thing that in my ears is that gets you excited is being able to pull away the confusion and create the clarity and ask those powerful questions and
it
see the
is.
transformations unfold, to witness the transformations right before you. I think that's the essence of what seems to really continue building your passion to do this day after day after day. Wake up every day saying, "Oh, goody, I get to."
And today's not going to be as bad as we thought yesterday. That's the best part. How many times we wake up in the morning and we don't feel good about the day? That's what I talk about so often. And those having accelerated troubled expectations, instead of that with hate, we can have excellent leadership plans, which is help. HELP, having excellent leadership plans. We're
Mhm.
all good leaders when we try. And that's where we want to grow forward. When we can wake up and realize that that anger has no value, that hate is nothing more than anticipating troubled expectations, and
Mhm.
instead we can create a world that is better because of us.
Yes.
Personally, and professionally.
Yeah,
So when we want to look at
absolutely.
that, we just want to look
Absolutely.
inside ourselves. It's it's so much we've learned so much through our culture from decades ago to centuries ago and how we've learned to do certain things. The
Hmm.
prejudices that we have come about and that we have created is so sad because too many of our prejudices are nothing but social constructs. That's just something that we have made and we have created over the years. Why is something right? Why is something wrong? There's no basis to it.
Hmm.
None at all.
No, no, it's very complex and kind of an interwoven, discombobulated thing that has once you unpack it and ask those questions. Well, if this, why that? And so why does that have to be? And kind of shifting the perspective and the paradigm. And quite frankly, when you work with these individuals and corporations to gain these new perspectives and to create that unity, it's really shifting to that new level of peace, happiness, joy, even financial success. And that is that huge positive ripple effect. In fact, one of my early mentors in my career was Mark Victor Hansen. I didn't work with him directly, but I was in what he and Bob Proctor created was a 3% club. And so the two of them led this very powerful mastermind that I had the privilege of being a part of. It was just a powerful experience. And one of the things that I gained from him, my nugget of wisdom was, he said, Wendy, you need to have a big, hairy, audacious goal, something that just fuels your passion and helps you to overcome those little barriers and just keep your sights up high and keep your momentum going. And so ever since then, in each of the phases of my career path, which has included early on being an entrepreneur for about 17 years to working in corporate for about 6 years, and now my role here as a coach, my aspirations have always been something that just, you know, uh, like I shared earlier, my big hairy audacious goal is to raise consciousness for humanity. Well, that's pretty big, but the way that I go about it is by helping individuals that are doing that meaningful work like you, because the work that you do is what's directly raising that consciousness and making the
It
world a
is.
better place. So I'm curious, do you have a vision? Do you have something that is fueling you to, in addition to loving, unpacking and creating the simplicity out of the complex, do you have a bigger vision?
I do. And it's big
Okay.
because it's political. And
Okay.
I have run for office before. I ran for the Colorado House of Representatives twice,
Oh,
did
wow.
okay, but that's a tough job. And ran for the Colorado Springs City Council once because my big audacious goal is then there's three of them. Number one is we need to have term limits in the federal government. We have people sitting up there, we elect people, and a few years later, they're millionaires and they have a lot of control because they're reelected too many times because they're incumbents. If we would put something like that together, that would be awesome. Then, in that same process, if we would get the legal ease, what I call legal tease, out of our law, who can understand the laws that are written by our legislators, the people that we elect every 2 or 4 years? That is huge because we need to be able to read the laws and understand the laws that we're supposed to obey. That's got to be a big item because right now, how many laws go, how many court cases go to the Supreme Court? It's just too many. Too many go to the Supreme Court because even our legal system doesn't. understand the laws. And they go from Supreme Court to Supreme Court. If we would have at least 51% of our law writers, the people that write the law, as our English instructors who are not paid enough, if we get them to help write our laws so that we can understand them, and that goes for every country, just English in the United States, if the same thing for the every other country on every other continent, if the people who wrote the laws were the people who teach the language, we could all understand it so much better. And it's huge in the process. We could just understand what we're supposed to obey. We buy something from the store, we bring it home, there's instructions to read it. And if we have to read it in somebody else's language, are we going to understand it? No. But our laws that we're supposed to obey are written that way. So that's what we've got to change.
Yeah, no, those are big goals. I love that. Wanting to just change the way that our community is, or in our country, functions in a way that more is cohesive and brings unity, right? So
it is. And if we would just start bringing that down to the people, instead of it being all just up there for someone else, we need to make it understandable for each of us, because you and I, even in our business situations, our business law, our tax law, we just filed our taxes. To read that, it doesn't make sense unless you go to a lawyer. And I won't go into my definition of lawyers right now and judges, but that's the problem that we have. No one understands it, even themselves. And that's what I bring forward into what I do, because it's a situation where we must understand. And that's what I do. I build bridges, real bridges, bridges between people, bridges creating unity. I demonstrate the 7 simple steps of my Achieving Unity Success Formula that will transform any relationship, from relationships in the bedroom to relationships in the boardroom and every room in between, eliminating conflict and creating unbreakable bonds. And that's what we need personally and professionally. That's what we all need to do. Yep. Imagine clearer communication, stronger collaboration.
That would change everything. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what is the best next step for our audience? Those who are, curious about learning more about the work that you do and to better understand if your support and approach are maybe the best answer for them to break through their frustrations. What's the best next step?
Wendy, the best next step is to read my guide. I have an Achieving Unity guide, and it talks about the same things we're talking about today, talking about the anger. We're talking about the hate, and go from the anger to calm, from the hate to help. And I even have 2 acronyms for the word prejudice. It is a situation where if we just knew more about prejudice, and it talks about that in that free guide. So please read that free guide, give me feedback, and then it has a summary that talks about those 6 steps.
So that's Achieving Unity Guide, correct?
Achieving Unity Guide, right.
Look in the show notes, listeners, because there's a link there for you to grab that free gift from Mark. So, well, Mark, I just want to thank you so much for being on my show today and sharing your perspectives and wisdom, and just learning more about the great work that you're doing and what's possible with your vision and expertise. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Wendy, thank you. I thank you for what you're doing in helping us all make this world a better place.
My pleasure. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, the real life transformations facilitated by experts like my guest today are truly priceless. I mean, happiness, joy, peace, love, right? These are all what each of us ultimately strives for in life. But becoming a sought-after and well-paid coach or energy healer is often challenging, overwhelming, and frustrating. So, if you're a heart-centered coach, expert, or energy healer who's striving for more ease, flow, and abundance, well, I've created a special gift just for you. So check out the show notes. All right, well, this is Wendy Vaughn signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in, and be sure to join me for my next episode where we'll be inspired by yet another impact maker's journey.